Lounging, son.
Well, first off, my name's Ryan, and this is the Comic Lounge podcast. But before we get into the episode, I wanted to share some personal thoughts on the state of the country in regards to some of the social justice issues that the country has been facing. Last week, a man, Jacob Blake, was gunned down in front of his children, shot 7 times in the back. This isn't the first case of this happening with police against, profiling black people. It's been weighing heavy on my heart, as I'm sure it has been the entire world. It makes me sick, and it hurts my heart, and I had to talk about it. I want to share with everybody listening, anybody that's a fan of the site, to know that where we stand, and we stand with our black brothers and our black sisters, and we want to fight with them and stand with them against the oppression that they have been dealing with for decades. Fuck these motherfucking cops. I have had experiences myself with cops, probably not in the same instances. It's long overdue for change. It just keeps getting swept under the rug, and I could continue talking about this. I don't want to get too far off of what you guys all came here to listen to, but just know that we are thinking about Jacob Blake's family. They're in our prayers, as well as the 2 gentlemen that lost their lives in Kenosha because of some stupid punk ass racist little fucking boy that decided he wanted to go shoot people in a fucking protest. The time is to come together, not to stand apart, and it starts at the top with the leadership of our country. I don't mean to make this a political thing, but anybody out there that wants change, go fucking vote and get these stupid motherfuckers that are in office that are not promoting change, but staying in the status quo, and if anything, digressing from where we should be. Get out there and vote and make your voices heard.
And just to add to what Ryan said, I basically said exactly how I feel. And it doesn't just go as far as voting for, the presidential election. We're talking about local votes too. Pay attention to the propositions being placed in your local governments and in your state governments. And while the sound of like rioting and taking up arms and like uprising, as far as we the people go, they romanticize that. People romanticize that, and it's while change can happen through that, I think that the real longevity of change really happens when you change the system itself, and nothing can get that done better than getting the people that we want to run our country, run our states, run our cities, run our towns, run our city councils in office, and the only way to do that is to vote. We are a democracy. Yeah. We're a country built on democracy, and I'm really usually very outspoken when it comes to this stuff, but quite honestly, I'm just tired of seeing people getting shot on video.
Yeah, it's I'm tired of you, but it hurts. It hurts my heart. I don't want my kid. I know I talk about my kid a lot, but I don't want her to grow up in a world like this. And I did forget to mention the NBA. All the players boycotted their games and basically went on strike, refused to play their games because they want change and they know that the people with money have the power. I just want to say that, as an NBA fan, I'm proud to be a fan of the NBA, to see what they did, and it trickled down to other sports. And I think it's an amazing thing to see these people with this stature that so many people hold in high regard, using their power for change. I think it's a beautiful thing. For anybody that disagrees with what they did, you can suck a fat one.
Eat a bag of dicks.
Yeah. So
I've always wanted to say that being recorded. Now that that's over, let's reset the tone, hit the reset button. Welcome to the Comic Lounge podcast, guys. I am your host, your friendly neighborhood Spider Dale, with my co-host, the immortal Iron Ryan. Today we have
I like that one. That was good.
The immortal Iron Ryan, right? The fist of Khonshu, right?
Yes.
And then we have the lovely Jennifer Lumley, aka the astonishing She-Hulk, and and we are all here today for another episode of the Comic Lounge podcast. We have some pretty interesting stuff to talk about. I mean, a lot of stuff happened this week, obviously, because this week was crazy. We read Pretty Deadly as a group, and book written by Kelly Sue DeConnick, art by Rios. We're going to talk about the freaking unfortunate passing of freaking King T'Challa himself. Chadwick Boseman, which literally happened yesterday, like freaking just sent a shockwave throughout the entire world. Dude, he basically had cancer while filming all these movies.
Dude.
Because he was
Doesn't that make him even more inspiring?
He's a fucking king.
I've watched because I love that movie, and it easily is in my top 5 anything superhero related movies. I think it was my favorite movie that came out that year, and yes, my favorite movie was a comic book movie. But I think what that movie meant.
All my favorite movies are comic book movies.
I think what that movie meant to so many people. It just had this energy about it, this power to it, and I fell in love with Chadwick Boseman's take on the character, and I've watched so many videos of him where he speaks with public speakings, and he's just he just has such a beautiful soul, man, and it's so hard. It was so hard. I didn't believe it. I found out on Rob Liefeld's fucking Facebook that he had passed, and I didn't think he was lying, but I'm like, wait a second, dude, wait, this can't be happening. Can 2020 really continue to just shit all over the world? I don't understand.
2020 to even eat a bag of dicks.
Yeah, they too. Yeah, but then we find out for 4 years, right? He's battling colon cancer, and
he was diagnosed with stage 3 for the past 4 years. So that means basically for at least another 5 years before that, he had some form of cancer.
Right. So, when he was grabbing the fucking gauntlet from Thanos, this motherfucker's battling cancer. Thinking back on all these scenes, it's I don't know, it adds a little bit more to it for me, knowing what he was going through while filming, and
managed to keep it a secret.
Yeah,
and I saw a picture of him in the in a children's cancer ward.
Oh yeah, I saw
just
that
hanging out with them, and I think that just really broke my heart, because he's battling it, and he's just trying to be strong for the other kids who don't even know, who he's just trying to lift them out of it.
Yeah. I saw a really interesting tweet today, and it was it was from an older gentleman, and he was like, Chadwick Boseman to this generation was like my generation's Christopher Reeves.
I saw that.
Yeah, in a sense that he was just one of those people where if you were ever to see him on the street and give him a hug, he'd hug you back. And it's crazy when we think about people like that and what they represent, what these actors represented on screen, and how that made people feel. I'll be honest with you, when I saw Black Panther, that filled me with something different. I mean, I'm not African American, but I am an immigrant. I come from a land which originally started off as tribal people, and to see that on stage and to see people of color portrayed in these royal, grand, and regal ways, as opposed to how most of American cinema portrays, African Americans as they're either slaves, or they're gangsters, or they're thugs, or they have some sort of malevolence to them. But to see that in how grand it was, and how well portrayed it was, and how freaking upliftingly powerful it was. I can only imagine what it was like for a little boy to see that, or a little girl to see Shuri.
It's like that image you shared, where they're that variant cover where the little boy, little girl, and they're pointing up, and they're like, "That's me."
Yeah,
Yeah, and it's sad to think that it took this long to get that. I'm so grateful to have seen Chadwick be able to portray that, but man, I feel like little kids should have been seeing that a long time ago, but I'm so grateful to see Chadwick bring that performance to the character.
Yeah.
Maybe it could be controversial to some people out there. I don't want to see another Black Panther. I don't want them to touch this character for a long time.
Unless it's Shuri. Unless Shuri puts the call on.
That's what I was going to say. Make Shuri Black Panther now. It would be too soon for what they want to do for their plan of making Black Panther 2. I don't want to see somebody else cast, because to me, it will diminish the movie. It'll take me out of the movie, and I won't be able to enjoy it the same way. Just knowing why he was recast. Like it was one thing when they recast Rhodey in Iron Man, and they made Don Cheadle like, you know what I mean? Like that's one thing.
Well, Don Cheadle was the better choice anyway.
Oh, I agree.
Because freaking what's his name? Like he's too whiny. Downey, stop drinking on the plane, Downey. That's like all I heard.
Yeah, but yeah, he was an amazing human being. So inspiring. I mean, even before this, I was inspired by him, and I just loved what he was about. We lost a huge, like to me, it didn't hit me the same as Kobe because I had a longer connection to Kobe Bryant. That hit me on multiple levels, but this is right there with it. It's like beginning of 2020, and then like almost at the end of it, it's like to lose these two incredible human beings is just. It's almost just too much to deal with on top of a fucking pandemic and social justice issues. It's like, Jesus Christ, what else this year?
2020 fucking sucks. Some of the comics have been good, though.
Yeah, let's talk about comics. Let's get out of that.
Some of the comics have been good, though.
Also, hey, you know what else is a trip to me before we get off Chadwick? So he played Jackie Robinson. Yesterday was Jackie Robinson Day.
Yeah.
He played Black Panther created by Kirby, and yesterday was Kirby's birthday. It's just so surreal to think that happened.
Numerology is crazy, bruh.
Rest in power.
Fucking king, dude.
And speaking of Kirby.
Yeah, it's Kirby's birthday, man. Like Kirby.
Yeah. We wouldn't have like we wouldn't have any type of like comic book world, comic book community without him, and he, standing against like Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. I feel like Jack Kirby brought just as much as Stan Lee, if not more, but Stan Lee gets all the limelight.
Well, that's just because Stan Lee's boisterous personality. He marketed himself that way, but if, anybody that really does the research, I mean, Jack Kirby, I would say, is just like a hair above in terms of creative output and who really created stuff. I'm not trying to take anything away from Stan Lee, rest in peace as well, but Jack there's a reason his nickname was the King.
The King and the Man. It's crazy because like because people like attribute a lot of Marvel characters to Jack Kirby. Like, we got Doctor Doom, we got freaking, Captain America, we have all sorts of crazy literal mainstays within the Marvel mythology, but he was also responsible for a lot of freaking a lot of the DC characters too, like Jack Kirby Darkseid, freaking like Mr. Miracle, Big Barda, and like he was
the fourth world, dude.
Yeah, the entire fourth world, and like he was really progressive and like in what he did too. Like he Black Panther was Jack Kirby's baby.
Yeah.
Like and then Big Barda was one of Jack Kirby's baby. He really pushed boundaries and didn't give a fuck, like a king should.
Yeah.
I mean, like the characters that really set him off for wanting to leave Marvel was when somebody wanted to do something else with Silver Surfer. Silver Surfer was the character I think he cared about the most at Marvel. I don't know if it was the Stan Lee Mobius Silver Surfer book, or maybe it was earlier than that, but that's what like kind of set him off to wanting to leave.
Which one was Mobius? Was that Requiem?
Terrible.
Yes. Yeah, but either way, it's like while I wish he got the recognition when he was alive, it is amazing to see how much I feel like every year just a little bit more in terms of fans like really latching on to Kirby and knowing that like no, it was him just as much if not more. Like Jennifer, you just said that, I feel like as kids we're like, oh, Stan Lee created that. As we get older and we learn, as comic book fans, we're like, nah, it was Kirby. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, no, that was Ditko for Spider-Man. That was Ditko for Doctor Strange. I just like to try to educate as much as I can. When people that aren't into comics like talk, I always make sure I drop the name of, Kirby, Ditko, with Batman, Bill Finger. Like all the names that don't get the shine that they really deserve,
Yeah, dude. I remember when I saw that Bill Finger documentary on Hulu, I was like, what the hell is this? And then by the end of it, I'm just like, yo, Bob Kane is a fucking whole ass trash bag.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he's an asshole. Yeah, he's a fucking asshole.
Fucking like just the stipulations and the contracts that he put, like that off top was just like, whoa, bro.
Oh yeah.
When you think about the like relationship between Stan Lee and Jack Kirby, like, do you feel like there are parallels between the story with Bill Finger?
I kind of don't feel like that. I mean, like Ryan said, I feel that Stan Lee was definitely more boisterous.
Yeah.
And, you know, like even in the early issues, like Kirby's name was always on there, as opposed to Finger, who like nobody knew about until like just recent years. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it's pretty crazy that like what started this for me was I heard a story about Steranko almost punching Bob Kane in the face at a Comic-Con one year, and I was like, why would you want to do that to Bob Kane? And then, you know, I read up about Bob Kane and started like, you know, finding, you know, digging myself deeper into the freaking rabbit hole. And then little shreds of Bill Finger came up, but nothing like really too crazy until like I saw that documentary. I'm like, oh man. Whew.
Yeah, you know how I found out about him almost punching Bob Kane? When someone told him that maybe he should get punched in the face for something he tweeted not that long ago. They're like, you remember that time you punched Bob Kane for being an asshole? Well, maybe somebody needs to punch you. Because he said something about the whole COVID thing, and it sounded very conservative, very racist, kind of. So, he's old, you know. I don't think age matters. I think like maybe it's just true colors maybe kind of show when you get older because you start giving less of a fuck about what people think of you. Maybe I've always not given a fuck what people think about me. So I just feel now is what you'll hear from me when I'm fucking 80. So
as the days go by, I just feel myself turning into like a Filipino Clint Eastwood, like like. Get off my damn lawn.
Dude, I need to figure out how to superimpose your face on Clint Eastwood from Gran Torino. I'm going to figure this shit out. I'm going to figure this shit out. Oh, man. Yeah, but yes, rest in peace, Kirby. Happy, what would have been 103rd. You guys want to talk about Fandome?
Yeah, let's talk about some of the stuff in Fandome. I'm down. Yeah, let's do it.
Let's let Jen start off. I know you wanted to talk about the Batman trailer.
So I feel like initially when I heard about Fandome, I have a really hard time saying it, and I think Fandome. That Fandome. I don't know. When I was very bitter because I'm like, what the fuck is this Fandome? It just didn't roll off the tongue for me very well. However, I feel like I'm so glad that the Batman trailer had such a warm reception because everyone was shitting on Robert Pattinson for playing Batman. And I feel like ever since that was announced, I'm like, look, Batman is an emo kid. Like, 100%. He's an emo kid. And I feel like everyone has embraced that. And then after seeing that in the trailer, man, I was kind of pumped for the new Batman, and now I'm even more pumped for it. I have like one stipulation, and this is something that I have seen so many damn times. If I see another Batman origin story where Martha Wayne's fucking pearls get ripped off her neck, like I don't know if you guys have read Three Jokers yet that came out this week.
I did, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll talk about that too.
Well, spoiler alert, I made it to page 9 of Three Jokers, saw a scene where Martha Wayne's pearls get ripped off, and I couldn't finish it because that's such a point of contention for me, and I know it's stupid, but I think so. Anyways, I just really hope that in the Batman that they do not do that. Like, please just edit that shit out. I don't need to see another Batman origin story to get it.
Are you gonna walk out of the theater if a single pearl drops on the ground?
Yes.
So you don't want to see Martha die for the 552nd time on screen?
No, because like at this point, like even when we went and saw the Joker movie, we get another Batman origin story.
I know.
I love these films, and you know, I still will go see it. I don't know if I'll walk out, but I will visibly just yell out like "fuck this" in the theater. So if you hear that, that's me.
Okay, what about this? All right, so So if they, they announced a Flashpoint movie at Fandome, right?
Yeah.
And okay, well, Flashpoint obviously has Thomas Wayne as the Batman, and there's gonna be there has to be an origin story. But what if the pearls still drop, but Bruce dies?
Yeah. If I see that, then okay, I'll cheer for that. That would be the one exception.
Wait, what are you talking about though? It can't though. The pearls can't drop. She doesn't die.
In the struggle, Ryan. I can picture it in my head. There's a struggle. Joe Chill tries to grab the pearl.
Joe Cool.
Joe Cool.
Joe Cool.
The camel. The fucking camel.
Yeah.
Tries to grab the
lights
pearls,
up a fucking
and then
camel
Bruce
cigarette, rips the pearls off. Yeah.
And then Bruce, just after watching Zorro, he's feeling all heroic. He's like, "Don't touch my mom!" And then she gets freaking shot. But the pearls still rip. So yeah, this is how
it's different. It's a different origin story.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, either way.
Yeah, but I really enjoyed the trailer. I didn't have a problem with Robert Pattinson. I think he's a fantastic actor. I think people just automatically, it's the Twilight guy. Take Twilight out of the picture, look at his other films. He's a fantastic actor. I fully think that he's going to do an amazing job. We only saw footage from the first, they've only filmed 25% of the film. So that's only a quarter of the film. And for me, what really stood out was the score. If you have a bad score or bad music in a trailer, it ruins it. It's kind of like if you have a good art in a comic book and the coloring sucks, it will ruin the book. But I think it looks good, man, and I'm all for Paul Dano as Riddler. So, and Zoe Kravitz as Catwoman. I love the new Commissioner Gordon. I can't remember his name.
Dude from Westworld.
Yeah.
Dude from the Hunger Games.
And the Hunger Games.
He's a fantastic actor, and people are like, "Why are you making Commissioner Gordon black?" Who gives a shit? You're picking the right person for the job. I think he's I was excited when they cast him. I didn't care that he wasn't white. It just looks great. It does look really, really fucking. And I love that they took Kevin Smith's idea from Detective Comics 1000 of where Batman melts down the gun that killed his parents and puts it on his as the bat emblem on his costume.
Yeah.
So that's pretty dope too.
I really enjoyed it. Okay, I had my reservations, and it wasn't because of Robert Pattinson. It was mostly because I still just firmly stand by my belief that they really need to shelf the Trinity for a while. But prior to the Matt Reeves interview about the whole Batman thing and his whole, I thought it was, I didn't know what to expect out of it. And then after seeing the trailer, I was like, oh, hell yeah. And Matt Reeves deliberately said this is going to be a detective movie. I feel that the Vengeance beat 'em up scene was just to shut up all the naysayers.
Yes.
Because, that was pretty brutal. He hit him 17 times in a 5-second span.
That show's dope.
Yeah, it was great. But I have the strong inkling suspicion that it's not going to be mostly like that. Because if you think about it, just with the presence of the Riddler alone, the Riddler isn't a bad guy per se. He's a freaking... He's not Bane. He's not the Joker, right? So... in this, especially after the portrayal of what Jim Carrey did to the Riddler, they have to change it up, right? So with this, I think it's definitely going to be more of a cerebral thing, definitely more of a detective story.
I mean, I prefer that. So.
Same.
I really think that this will end up changing the tone a little bit. I mean, DC has gone dark with so many of their movies, but you definitely take a look at those 90s movies and then the Heath Ledger Joker, all of those. But I think that this will be that point where we really start to see a new Batman. I think that this will be really good. Like you said, it'll be detective and not just fighting and punching and all of that.
Yeah, which fighting and punching is all well and good, but let's be real here, he's the world's greatest detective for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
And not one film has fucking portrayed that. Not one film. And I think that that's a smart choice. And I'm pretty sure if I remember correctly, he said they are not going to retread the origin because this is, I think it's supposed to be year 2 of him being Batman. So I hope I don't see one fucking inkling of it either. I think it's a waste of my time. I already know what happened. The entire fucking planet knows how fucking Batman became Batman. We don't need to see it. So
Wait, how did he become Batman?
So stupid. But we're talking about fandom. The thing that I loved the most was the return of Milestone.
That's epic, dude.
Mhm.
I have been asking for the return of Milestone silently inside my head. I've been asking to Dennis Cowan himself every single time I've saw him, talk to him.
He's kept it from you,
and he won't
he's
fucking
known about
tell.
this.
And he wouldn't fucking tell me.
Mhm.
You know how many times I've talked to him, dude, on the phone? He fucking knew. And I did the interview with him, 2 months ago? He fucking knew this shit was coming back. He could have told me off the record. I wouldn't have told I would have told you probably, but I wouldn't have told anybody else. But either way, I'm fucking stoked. I ended up having to post that episode on the YouTube channel, Hardware Number 1, because I recorded it 2 weeks ago. And it was going to be something I banked, but then they announced it was coming back. I'm like, fuck, I guess I should just post it now, Because I even on the video, I'm like, I wish they would bring it back. I think now is such a perfect time with the, especially with the movement going on, right? And it's crazy. And I told him that. I was like, I think the world needs Milestone right now more than ever. If you've read the early Milestone stuff, you know that they hit the hard subjects. It's not just about, beating up a fucking supervillain that can shoot acid from his hands or something. It was going after people that were attacking prostitutes or shit like that, and it dealt with racism. I think it's awesome. It's coming back. I'm a little upset that Milestone number 0 is digital only because I'm not about digital comics.
Yeah.
And then the static book is going to be digital only. And then they're going to do
I'm super excited for Static Shock, y'all.
So am I,
Yeah.
but I mean, I just wish it was in print too. I hope they at least collect it in a trade because you're going to alienate a lot of fans. And I think that the comic shops could do a better job of selling it. Nick brought this up. We're the ones that can sell it more than on digital because who do you have on a digital platform that's going to be oh, you should check out this book? A fucking pop-up? I close those things, dude. I don't fucking look at that shit. At least it's back, And then the Kyle Baker illustrated static book, whoo! The art for that, I've seen some of the art. That shit looks amazing. And then, of course, we got Icon and Rocket with Dennis Cowan writing or drawing. So excited for that, and I think that's in print.
I think what I'd like to do is make bootleg versions of it, bootleg print versions of it, and just sell them outside of a comic book store, get a big coat, just open it up and just have bootleg copies of these.
Dude, what if we did that? What if we did that to raise money for Black Lives Matter? That would be dope.
Oh hell
yes. Yeah, that's a perfect way to freaking raise money and get attention on Milestone.
Yeah.
This is a double-edged sword right here, bud.
Yeah.
Who do you think will be the creators that'll come back to it? Because obviously, Dwayne McDuffie passed away, but who do you think will be some of the creators that'll be a part of this?
They did announce Reginald Hudlin, who was the president of BT. He did a great Black Panther run with John Romita Jr. and a few other artists. He's the one that introduced Shuri, so he has been a part of Milestone for quite some time. I don't know about the static digital series. I do know that Reginald Hudlin, Dennis Cowan are doing the Milestone Returns, number 0. Hudlin and Kyle Baker are doing the static original graphic novel. And then Cowan and Hudlin are doing the Icon and Rocket series. But I don't know what else they're going to do. I want to see Hardware back. I want to see Blood Syndicate. There's a lot of great fucking characters that...
Fucking Blood Syndicate, damn!
Yeah.
Woo! So see, look, a lot of positive stuff coming out of Fandome with the way that they handled, that DC handled this Fandome and the announcements and everything. They pulled it off pretty well.
I think there should have been more comic stuff though.
Oh, absolutely, 100%. But you know what I mean? As opposed to Comic-Con at home. Comic-Con at home was just a mess.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? This actually felt it had a feeling of spectacle to it. You know what I mean? And some of their announcements. I mean, do we really need to see a Snyder cut?
What is it now? 5 hours?
I don't know
6 hours.
How much can you polish a turd? You know what I mean? Like,
We can spray paint the turd.
the only difference is we're going to see one vision as opposed to two. That's the only difference. To me, that's the only difference. I think that he's adding shit too, though, that he wasn't going to put because he was originally going to do two movies. So he's going to have, I think he's adding Martian Manhunter into it. He's adding Green Lantern into it somehow. We're going to see Darkseid. We're going to see Desaad. So there is, I mean, you never know, dude. I mean, I don't really hate Zack Snyder that much.
He's just one of those people that really don't need a Twitter because with every tweet, he just looks more and more like an idiot. But there's people out there that don't have a Twitter, like directors, like that don't, like, you know, you don't see Jerry Bruckheimer with a freaking Twitter because he knows he's just gonna get freaking railed. Like,
that's true.
You know, like so, you know, just put your product out, shut up. That's it. You don't have to sit here and like freaking Snyder's over here freaking talking shit to critics. Like, why are you gonna talk shit to critics? That's like the last person you should.
I would do this. I would do the same thing. But that's just me. I like to fight. I like to argue with people. So like, if somebody talks shit even a little bit, I'll be like, I'll just go off.
Yeah. See, this is why we're not giving you control of the Twitter when we fucking have a comic book out.
Yeah, well, that's fine. No, you better let me fucking control it. Actually, but before we get too far off the rails here, because we're pretty deep in the episode, let's talk about Pretty Deadly.
All right.
Who's starting off? Who wants to start?
Let Jen do it. She's the guest.
Yeah. Well, I know we've already been talking about, you know, thanks for having me on, and I know we were talking about like which book we wanted to do, but Pretty Deadly is, man, it's pretty and it is deadly. I was never really a big fan of like Westerns. I mean, there's some of the classics, but I think that this book really made me love those like big stories about Westerns. When I initially read Pretty Deadly, it starts off with this conversation between the butterfly and the rabbit. It just feels like a bedtime story. Like, I feel like Kelly Sue DeConnick is just reading me a bedtime story with this. I don't know about you guys, but yeah, it's so beautiful. Feel like I love all of the characters, even though even some of the shittier ones I really enjoy.
And almost every single one is shitty too. By
the way.
Yeah. This is probably my third time reading this book, and I feel like every time I have read this, I find something new that I love, or I find something, and especially after this last year, the third one came out, and it takes a much different tone. It's in a much different space, because it's in 1920s Hollywood, the third volume is, and then going back and reading this, there's so much that's linked together with that you can just tell that there was a big idea for this, and I'm so glad to see where it went.
Same, dude. This is the third time I've read it also. I read it maybe like a few months before we went on lockdown. And then the third trade came out, and I didn't have volume 1. I just borrowed it from the shop, and then I bought all 3. And I read them all. So I read the second one in quarantine. I just read it for the third time again. And I get like something different each time. And like you said, after reading the third one and then going back, you do see the connection between a lot of stuff. And I describe this book like I love Westerns. Not all Westerns, but there are a lot of West. Like, I like the spaghetti Westerns with like the Man with No Name trilogy. I like Tombstone. I like Unforgiven, stuff like that. So this is like right up my alley. And Kelly Sue does it in a way that it almost feels like you're reading poetry.
Yes.
Kind of. You know what I mean?
Bro,
it's not
Kelly Sue got bars, bro.
Yeah, this is not this is not like normal structure by any means. And I think that's why the first time I read it, not that I didn't like it, but I'm like it was a little bit harder for me to kind of latch onto. And then the second time I read it, I'm like, okay, this is a little bit easier. I picked up stuff that I completely didn't even notice the first 2 times I read it. And as I'm reading, I'm like, how the fuck did I not notice that? Like, it's like right there in front of my face. And it's not just the words that are amazing. Like, Emma Rios' art kind of takes me away from like what I'm reading sometimes, because I start staring at all the details that she puts in, and it's just her art is so breathtaking. She's such an amazing artist. I love the fact that we have a writer, artist, and colorist, all women, creating this product. You know, like you don't see that much in comics. You don't see a full creative team, much like you'll see with like Bitterroot, right? Where you got Chuck Brown, Safer Green, and David Walker, or on Excellence you got Kari Randolph and Brandon Thomas. Like, but this is, I mean, and I love that the opening to each issue, you have that close up shot of like an animal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the first one is the bone, I think that's the rabbit, but just the skeleton. And then you got the butterfly. It's so experimental in my eyes. Maybe I'm taking something different than what other people are taking, but just the way that the story is laid out and presented to the reader, and then the art coupled with that, it's like the synergy that these two creators have. It's so seamless. I mean, Dylan, you messaged me after you read the first 2 issues, and you were like, "What the fuck?" You know?
And
that's why I was like, "Dude, just trust me, just keep reading." Because
okay.
like
So
the first couple of issues, hold on, real quick. As I was reading it last night, even for the 3rd time, and I read the first couple issues, I was like, "Okay, what about this was confusing to me? Why would Dylan message me?" And then I was like, "Oh, okay." I remember the first time I read it and thinking like, why does everybody think this is like one of the best books ever? Not to say that I didn't like, again, not to say that I didn't like it, but I couldn't latch on very easily to it. I think it picks up, like the last 3 issues of the book are where you really get the meat of it, right? And
okay, so it was, the first 2 issues were confusing as hell, all right?
Yeah.
I didn't know what was going on. It was very abstract and it kind of felt all over the place, but not in the sense of its writing, because I feel like the direction was leading towards where it was going, and like I kind of felt that. But it was the combination of the writing and the art. The art's beautiful, first off. Like I get like some sort of like Western manga vibe to it. It's pretty crazy. Yeah, by the time I finished the 3rd issue, after the big reveal over who Fox is, I was like, wait, stop. I went all the way back to the first chapter, and I read that whole chapter again. I'm like, okay, cool, I got this. All right. And then after that, after like, recollecting my thoughts over what exactly was going on and what was told to me, it's poetry, especially in the beginning when Sissy and Fox are literally in the town square, like doing their whole little spiel, right? Like they tell the story, but everything's in poetry form and stanzas, and like that little girl has bars, and once I collected all that, the story immediately clicked for me. I'm like, oh, this is tight. All right, cool. So that's what happened. This is who this person is. This is who this person is. And then by like I think the third or 4th chapter, they give us Deathface Ginny, and Deathface Ginny, she's tight. Deathface Ginny and Big Alice, they literally fought twice, and those were like some of the best freaking fight scenes ever. She was great.
Especially with Emma Rios's art. Like, her art is so kinetic and it moves so well. She did such a good job with those scenes where they're fighting.
It's funny that you mentioned you didn't know who Fox was. That was the same problem I had. When I read it this time, I'm like, oh, fuck. How did I not? That was what I was like, how did I not see that?
Yeah.
How did I not fucking know that was who they were talking about, like, in this story, And I love the depiction of death.
Yeah.
Completely human, and then some, like, animal-shaped skeleton skull,
Yeah. Like Ryan said, and like that post I did, like I think it was yesterday. I love Westerns, like all Westerns. 310 to Yuma, the original one, friggin' Fistful of Dollars, Good, Bad, and Ugly, Unforgiven, Tombstone, Quick and the Dead. This gave me Quick and the Dead vibes, because it's all very, very strong women, like which Sharon Stone was. And then you got a real trash bag, like this fool Leonardo DiCaprio was. And like, you know what I mean? Like, this is dope. It's just that, you give Ginny a sword, as opposed to like it's like giving Sharon Stone, a young Sharon Stone, a sword. You know what I mean? This is some really, really excellent stuff. And like, I'm pretty excited to get into the 2nd and 3rd volume, like after hearing you guys talking about it. Like,
it definitely gets better, dude, for sure. But it's different. It's like Jen said, it's like, it goes to like different time periods. It's not all set in the same period. Before I forget, I just want to say, one of the characters, like, while I love Ginny, like, on this 3rd read, I really feel for Fox. Like, he puts like his love, he locks her away, essentially killing her, pushing her into Death's arms, which is how Ginny is born. It's all redemption. This is all like a redemption thing for him, because then in order to save Ginny, because he wanted to save her, right? But then he has to kill the beast, which is Sissy, but he can't do it, and then he just becomes her protector all this time. The tortured soul aspect of this character, like I couldn't help but feel for him this time, even though he was a fucking scumbag for doing what he did in the beginning to his wife. I end up feeling for him kind of more on this read.
Isn't that kind of the tone of like legitimate Westerns, though? It's always a tale about redemption.
Yeah.
You know,
and possibly like who the bad guy isn't the bad guy, like the good guy is the bad, like
that line is very skewed.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly. You guys mentioned about how, there are a lot of those like Western like tropes. Like when you think about like a lot of classic Western movies, a lot of them follow some type of formula or have some type of I think one of my like points where I don't love Westerns is a lot of times there's some racist elements in it, like the Indians are the bad guys, or like, like things like that. But what I love about this is it doesn't have any of those Western tropes, but it feels like an old West gunslinging, or in this case, like sword wielding, just epic story. And classic Westerns have such a history with samurai movies. That's where a lot of inspiration came from with those movies and those tales. So it's really cool that you mentioned that this feels like a Western manga, because the relationship between Westerns and samurai movies, like it's there.
Yeah, like Magnificent Seven was based on Samurai 7.
Yep.
Not Samurai 7, Seven Samurai. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's the same thing with like kung fu movies too. Kung fu movies, like Once Upon a Time in China was based on. It goes back and forth between East and West. Like Once Upon a Time in the West was based off of Once Upon a Time in China, or vice versa. I could have it confused, but yeah, like another dope thing that really stood out to me is like like the one-liners in here. Like there's like everybody has so many one-liners. It's just like so idealistic for like Westerns, right? So it's like when Ginny sees Alice again for the second time, and she's just like, "Tell Daddy I'm home." like damn, you know it's about to go down in the next chapter. You know what I mean? Even that guy Johnny Coyote, you literally see him in like three scenes, two of which he's in bed with a wench. And then immediately, once he like starts getting into character and starts actually like taking part in the whole actual like the meat of the story, you're like, oh, he's not so bad. Within these 5 issues, there's definitely a lot of character growth, which I can really appreciate, and it's really well paced for how fast it is too. Yeah, it's 5 chapters, and how everything is paced is absolutely great. Just the script writing, like I'm looking at one of the pages right now. It's Death talking to the beauty. It's like the saddest thing. I ask that you let me go. And his answer is always the same. There's a selfish sadness to it. Can you imagine what it's like to be literally the epitome of what the embodiment of death and falling in love with something, and you can't let it go because you'd lose it forever because you live. Like, it's such a crazy idea. This whole supernatural feel to it, I absolutely love it. There's just wild concepts being thrown around here that's like, it's like Greek opera.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? It's like Greek opera that involves gods and like this crazy mythos, but like there's this weird tragedy that happens between humans, and it's always, and the humans are trash bags, but then later on you find out that the gods are trash bags too, and it's literally so, it's like Electra, dude. Like it's beautiful. I just, both of you expect freaking messages from me about volume 2 and 3, like,
Yeah.
because I think I messaged both of you at the same time, like, I don't know what's going on. I've had 2 chapters, but it's wild.
Yeah. Well,
You know
I
what I
expect
mean?
a message from you every single time I recommend anything. I think I get a message from you every day, if not every other day, about some book that you're reading. That you're like, what the fuck's going on? And I just wait. That's my only answer, because I don't want to. I hate ruining stuff. Like I talked about on last week's episode. I hate when people spoil shit for me. Like, I like to be surprised, and in this day and age of social media and internet, it's like, it's so easy to accidentally be spoiled. You know what I mean? Like, I've had stuff accidentally happen where I'm like, I didn't even click on anything, but they spoiled it in the title of their link. And I'm just like, God damn it, dude. You know, like, so I love the excitement that I can, because I can hear your voice when you text me. So
Aww, that is so precious and wholesome.
So when you message me like a certain thing, like especially if it's in all caps, I hear a different inflection in your voice. So like I'm just like, yes. Like I feel like a sense of like gratification, and like especially if you like with Invincible when you were like messaging me about that.
I was messaging you literally like every other hour.
Yeah. But yeah, you know, like I'm so happy that you enjoyed this book. Like that's why I know that, you know, the three of us had kind of agreed on Paper Girls. Well, first of all, not only did I find out Dylan hadn't read Pretty Deadly, but I wanted to showcase a creator I feel still doesn't get as much shine. Brian K. Vaughan, he's good, he's cool. He's good. Yeah. You know what I mean? He doesn't need the shine on his name. I want to promote Kelly Sue DeConnick's work a little bit more, and I figured, you know, like, let's do this. And plus, you know what? I love Westerns, and you don't see Westerns in comics. This is how you do it. This is how you kind of break through to somebody like Jennifer who doesn't like reading, who is not really into Westerns. Yeah. But you kind of like maybe will be more open to checking out something because of this.
Oh,
you know?
For sure.
And
like I didn't really care for them until I read stories like this. Like this is what changed it for me.
Yeah, see?
And I just, like, you know, we talked about redemption. Like, I just love at the end that Mason, you know, aka Fox, he's forgiven. He's forgiven by Beauty by the end of it. Like, death is killed. Sissy becomes the new master of Death's domain. You know, and it's like
that was just a wild ass concept to me too.
Yeah,
that shit, just like the fact that like they say that death can die too. Yeah. Even death dies. Like, yo.
I know, dude. Kelly Sue DeConnick is just. She's respected, right? But she does, like, the mainstream audience, I feel like, still hasn't really, like, appreciated the work that she does. You know, everybody talks about her Captain Marvel. I want people to be talking about her Pretty Deadly.
I'll be honest with you.
You know what I mean?
I wasn't a fan of her Captain Marvel. Kelly Sue's great. Kelly Sue is wonderful. She's a fantastic writer. She's written other things that I do like. But, like, you know, her Captain Marvel wasn't for me. That's okay.
I know why.
Why?
It's probably the art.
It's always the art, dude.
It's probably the art.
Always
because
the art.
I'm not gonna. I'll be honest. Like, and this is not me trying to talk shit either. But like, I haven't read it. I haven't read her Captain Marvel. I flipped through it, and the art, I was like, I don't know if that's for me. You know, like, I mean, I'll read it eventually, but I have other stuff by her I can read. I like her Aquaman. I like what she did with that. Mm-hmm. Pretty Deadly. I haven't read Bitch Planet yet.
Oh,
I read
the
first volume of Bitch Planet. That's actually pretty good. I actually really like Bitch Planet.
All right, cool. I'll probably grab that at the shop on Monday.
I find that, like, because I feel like I recommend Bitch Planet a lot just because of, obviously, like, the political undertones of it. And not even undertones. Like, they're over, like, it is straight up Handmaid's Tale on, you know, another planet. But to me, Bitch Planet is so good. But I find that when I recommend it, and I hope that you don't take offense to this, but I find that when I recommend it to men, a lot of men don't seem to get it. And there's, you know, a point where I understand that because there's a lot of things that you may not like. There's subtleties about the way that it treats women, or that, you know, the world treats women that you may not understand if you haven't experienced that. But
I was raised in a house full of women, so I'm not saying like I know what it feels like, but I get it.
I find that a lot of men don't like it, but I feel like it's something everyone should read.
I don't know why I haven't read it yet. I don't think there's anything that's kept me from it. I mean, from the minute it was announced, I wanted to read it just for the name alone. I was like, what the fuck is Bitch Planet? I got to check it out, and I just, for whatever reason, I haven't read it. And I think there's 3 volumes out, right?
Yeah, there's like 2 main ones, and then there's a third that's like more short stories and more collaborators on it. I picked up, there was one day I think I went to, at the time where I was living, there wasn't like a local comic book store. All I had was Barnes & Noble. And I went in and I bought Bitch Planet, the first volume of Bitch Planet, and the first volume of Sex Criminals. And I'm pretty sure that the person who rang me out thought I was the weirdest person. Like, what the hell are they buying?
That's such an awesome pair of books for you to buy. Like, I mean, I've been laughed at, dude. I let my friend borrow I had brought it to him to read, and two of my coworkers, well, my boss at the time and one of my really good friends, they always used to make fun of me for reading comic books. And so when I brought Sex Criminals to work, dude, I heard about it all fucking day. Like just ragging on me. I'm like, you guys don't even know what the fuck the book is about. And I think that's a brilliant book. I love that fraction.
Sure.
You know what
never,
I mean?
never bring trade paperbacks, especially adult tone paperbacks, to work, because same thing happened to me when I brought Monsters to work. I was reading it at my desk, and I was sitting there, and it was one of the scenes where what's her name was naked, but she also had and the monster was kind of seeping out, and then one of the servers walked by, and then she just yelled to the whole kitchen, "Hey guys, Dylan's in here reading hentai." What the fuck? You guys suck.
Yeah. I never really cared. I'm just like, it's just like you saying that just kind of reminded me though that like you like Bitch Planet and Sex Criminals, and like I brought Sex Criminals not even thinking about what others would think.
It's pretty funny, like just the whole reception that people have, like, when people find out, oh, Dylan, you read comics, or oh, Ryan, you read comics, like, you know what I mean? Like, obviously to us it's like, oh, hell yeah, it's great, it's fantastic, what do you read? But other people, like, I feel like they just automatically assume like just superheroes or just Marvel, just DC, you know what I mean? It's kind of like what Genevieve, I have to be clear on which Jen I'm talking about. When Genevieve was saying oh yeah, like when she would tell people that she reads comics, automatically they'd ask her what she thought about, like, stuff happening in the MCU, and she was like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Right? You know what I mean? That's an okay assumption to make, but it's also like, you guys do realize that there's more to comics than friggin' superheroes, right? Like,
I find that I struggle with that a little bit, because as a female who like occupies this space where there's a lot more like men in this space, creators, I wouldn't necessarily say readers too much, but it is more like focused on that. But I find that because I like indie stuff a lot more, and because people will ask me like, oh, you're into comic books, which one do you like, Marvel or DC? And I'm like, well, Image. And then I have to explain to them what Image is. And then I think that their perception of me is that I'm not a legitimate comic book fan, because like I do know a lot more about, I do know a lot of those things, but when it comes down to it, I'm going to talk about the indie books, not necessarily the big two.
It's funny you say that, because like that's what Genevieve and I were talking about on our video that we talked about, like with women in comics. And it's honestly, I don't blame anybody that comes into comics. Like, why would you go to Marvel, DC? It's a shit show.
Yeah.
It's absolutely fucking crazy, like, to get into that, and like the quality of the product is just so much better in indie. The diversity and representation is more prevalent in indie stuff than Marvel, DC.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look at some of some of the more popular comics that are out. Like I'm talking about indie stuff. Like look at Saga and its version of representation. Look at
Bitterroot,
Philadelphia. Philadelphia, freaking Paper Girls. Like, you know what I mean? It's just, and the thing is, it's like it's all very self-contained. That you don't have to worry about pissing the older fans off, like, because there's only one set of fans, the fans of this. I don't know, like, I hate, like, Genevieve was talking about.
She's so stupid, dude.
She was talking about how, like, fuck, Ryan, you're laughing at me, fucking.
Sorry.
Yeah, but how she was talking about, like, the older fans, like, they tend to be mad over, oh, you're changing the character that we like, and then there's always going to be that divide, like that these big two creators are always gonna have, like this fear that they're always gonna have to piss older fans off. But but in return, you alienate newer fans, right? Mm-hmm. And it's and Ryan, you said it's like they don't care about creating new fans. So it's like they don't know how to cultivate new fans, right? And It's true. Whereas you have books like Saga, and you have books like Paper Girls, and you have books like Monstrous, and you have like all these indie titles that literally they put it out there, and if they like it, and it's for everybody. It's not just for a particular group. Bitterroot is not just for a particular group. Like Philadelphia is not just for a particular group. They just put it out there because it's good fucking quality shit.
Yeah.
Yep. Exactly.
Like, whereas Marvel, it's like you're always gonna have that little fucking shit nest of fans that are like, no, I hate the way they're writing it. They're destroying the character, and I'm just like, bro. Like the thing is with the big two, all these changes are temporary. Everything. Like at any given moment, a character can change. Like you can't
I
hold on to the archaic way that these characters were written because it's always going to change. You can't expect them to stay like you can't expect Thor to stay the same Thor that he was back in the 1960s.
like one thing that I run into a lot is that people who are like social justice warriors are ruining the comic book industry, but then they're the same people who say, well, I haven't picked up a new book, or I haven't gone into a comic book store. And I just want to say, like, I'm 100% a self-described social justice warrior about these things. And the amount of money that I spend, and not to like one up anyone, but the amount of money that I spend on comic books in a month is probably more than most of these people have spent in years. And it's like I'm causing the downfall of the comic book industry, and I'm spending so much money. And so I think it becomes this self-fulfilling prophecy where they're like, you know, this is ruining the comic book industry. And it's like, well, if you put your money into comic book stores and you actually go out and buy comic books, that's what's causing the downfall of the industry, is that these people's perception of what these characters need to be in their mind. Like, I need Captain America to stay a straight white dude. I need Spider-Man to stay a straight white dude. And if it deviates from that whatsoever, or the creators that are working on these characters change whatsoever, they're like, okay, I'm not spending my money on that. And it just looks like a kid who only wants to eat chicken nuggets and won't eat any vegetables. That's what it feels like.
They're like spoiled little fucking brats.
Yeah, and I loved it. I say that loving chicken nuggets. Like, I will eat chicken nuggets all day, every day.
Wait.
But
Sidebar. You guys hear about McDonald's putting out spicy chicken McNuggets soon?
bitch.
Oh,
Okay,
dude.
so that's what I'm having for lunch today.
No, it's not out yet, but they're coming.
I'll be there.
It kind of like it hurts. It hurts my heart when I hear, you know, you Jen, or Genevieve, right? Like people that say that you're not real fans or something, you know, or they try to exclude people in that sense. Comics is about inclusion, man. You know what I mean? Like, and it's not about excluding people. People like what they like, and it goes back to like, you know, like when Jen said she went into a comic book store and they looked at her, Genevieve, when she walked in a comic store and they said she doesn't look like she belonged there. You know, like everybody that walks into a comic book store belongs there. Nobody should be made to feel like what they like is stupid, or that if they're not reading Marvel and DC, you're not a comic book fan, because that's just ignorant as fuck. And I mean, working in a comic book store, I see all types of people coming in there. You know, and I always ask if they want recommendations. I ask, what do you like? I'm not, if they say, oh, I want to read, what's a shitty book that's coming out right now?
Tinian Batman.
Tinian's Batman. I don't go over to them and be like, why the fuck would you read that hot piece of garbage? I don't tell them that. If they're like, oh, where's the new issue of Empire? Do I take the book and slap them in the face with it and tell them they're fucking stupid? No,
you
like,
said
okay,
you sent him to go talk
Empire.
to Ed.
Yeah, I'm like, here's your fucking comic book, but that's their prerogative, man. You don't ever want to, because that's also a way to alienate new readers. Because some of these people coming in are younger. If they need to read a shitty book to get them in there, and it'll lead them to good stuff, awesome, you know. Or if somebody comes in and is into indie stuff, they get into comics through, let's say, like Saga, because that's very mainstream, right? Or Sandman, very mainstream. The majority of people know it because it's on New York Times bestselling list. If that gets them into the store and then they read other stuff, don't shame them because they didn't start with Batman or Spider-Man or Superman. DC and Marvel are not trying to cultivate new readership. It does not seem like that is their goal. No. It seems like they want to appease older fans. And guess what? Not to sound fucking like grim, but those older fans are going to fucking die someday. Maybe you should worry about bringing new young people that aren't on death's door, you know, into the fucking comic book stores. Dude, it's so frustrating as a comic book fan to see like Marvel and DC, which is how I did get into comic books, not
Same.
getting with the times, not wanting, like DC's kind of doing it. I don't want to say they're not doing it altogether because they do their DC Zoom and DC Inc., which is now being rebranded. But they are stepping into the YA realm. They are producing some pretty cool stories. Like they did a Barbara Gordon book.
Oh, that's cool.
I think it was called Oracle, Code of Oracle or something like that. That was awesome, dude. I loved it. It's the best thing I've read from Barbara Gordon in years. And it had nothing to do with anything in the mainstream. And I missed her as Oracle. You know, I think that while it's cool that she got the use of her legs back, I think that she was a symbol to people that feel like, oh, I'm in a wheelchair. I can't be superhero. I can't be a hero. And like it gave them something to latch onto. So I feel like it kind of took that from the character. And then they did a Cassandra Cain story, and they've done the Harley Quinn Breaking Glass, and they did a Green Lantern book with I can't remember the name, but it was
Far Sector.
No, it was a YA book. He was South Korean. So like they're doing these things, right? Like DC's kind of, but they're not going full force. And I don't know. Maybe I went off on a tangent, but I'm just.
That's what we're here for, Ryan.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's what we're here for.
I want to see comics grow, man, and like I think Jen and I are probably going to do an episode about growing readership. That's one of the ideas we've been kind of bouncing back and forth because I think it's something that needs to be talked about. I think it's something that, if we want to see comic books get to where they can and should be as an industry, then you need to start younger. Like, I mean, I don't force feed my kid comic books, but if she starts to show interest, like I want to be able to show her stuff. And if you keep putting out the same crap, Marvel, DC, like. You're not going to grow research. I can't give my fucking daughter Saga and Paper Girls.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I can't give her indie stuff until she's older. So there needs to be stuff. Thank God for people like Raina Telgemeier.
Yes. Yeah.
For what she does. And I don't know the creator that does the Babysitters Club graphic novels, but like thank God for these people that are doing this stuff in Scholastic and Random House.
That's what they need to attack. They need to attack freaking Scholastic and all that stuff. And
you know what? I'm crossing my fingers Marvel doesn't fuck this up because they signed a deal with Scholastic to do stuff. So hopefully, this is a sign that they're going in the right direction.
But I remember, like, that's where I used to get all my books as a kid, like freaking Scholastic. And I'd be freaking hyped as shit to get that little 2-page fucking Scholastic book where you could order scary stories to tell in the dark, bro. Parts 1 and 2. Scholastic. Freaking The Giving Tree,
Animorphs,
a light in the attic, Where the Sidewalk Ends, The Missing Piece, Scholastic. They better fucking approach this shit with. This is like the only outlet for those kids. And the thing is, as parents gonna be like, oh, these are school books? Yeah, absolutely, we'll order it for you. I'm not even gonna read the synopsis. Like, who knows what they could freaking find, like what Marvel could be capable of by doing that, And they have so many characters, like, the Young Avengers, like Kamala Khan and freaking Nova and Ironheart. Like, these characters are literally made for the younger generation.
I think one thing that like bothers me about this too is like who gets to decide who's a real comic book fan? Like, are you a comic book fan because you've read all of X-Men or you've read all of Fantastic Four or anything like that? And it's like, no, you're a real comic book fan even if you haven't read a single comic book and you want to start. Like, if you like the idea of comic books. And one thing that I wish is that I could write a guide for comic book stores on how to, and I come from, like, my background for my job is like typically retail and like merchandising and things like that. Now I don't do that. I do something a little bit different. However, I wish that I could write a guide for comic book stores and be like, this is how you need to set up your store. This is how you need to organize your store. And here is a basic customer service guide. Like, for instance, I went into a local comic book store here that I had never gone into, and I picked up some stuff out of the dollar bin. And one of those things happened to be Faith by Valiant. It was like issue number 1 or 2. And the guy ringing me out, like, sees that I pull up Faith, who is a plus size superhero, and he says something like, Faith should have been more faithful about her diet, and I wanted to slap this
What
dude.
the-
And
Wow.
I didn't, but
I wish you
I
did.
just wanted.
I wish you did.
Ugh. Whew. But I was like, cool, I will never come to your shop again. You will never see me in this store again.
How dare you body shame?
Yeah.
Like,
And it's like, how many other people, like, because me, like, I like to think of myself as a seasoned comic book person. Like, I know my way around a comic book store. I know what I'm looking for. I know what I like. And like having, I used to work in a comic book store when I lived back in Florida, and how many could be comic book fans has people like this fucking dude. How many people never want to go back into a comic book store because of people like him?
yeah, the gatekeepers, dude.
Because I just don't like valuing it, but like I thought that was cool that they did a plus size superhero, and it goes back to that fucking Wonder Woman cover that Genevieve and I talked about.
Oh my goodness!
I don't
yes.
fucking understand the fucking backlash from that. Like we don't need to like get too far deep into this, like, because I think I talked about last week and I talked about with Genevieve, but like I just didn't see the problem with that cover. There was nothing wrong with that.
People who don't want to eat their vegetables. It's kids who didn't want to eat their vegetables, grew up, and still won't change from their like bland diet.
No. I mean, it's just people that are fucking ignorant, and it's people just fucking piss me off, man. I just can't stand people. I like what you said though about setting up a shop. I think the shop I work at, and I'm not just saying this because I would have said this before I worked there. I think that we have it set up that is very inviting to people of all types that love all types of stories. Like we have our YA section, right?
Yeah.
We have a kids section. We have the creators section. Like we have a Lemire section. We have a Brian K. Vaughan section. We have Kelly Sue. We have Jean Luen Yang, and then we have a women in comics section. We have and stuff like that. And I think that that's important as well. But we also don't have back issues. We are more of a comic book store than a comic store, I would say. I don't know how else to kind of word it. I think it's all about knowledge too. You have some of these people that work in comic book stores that you fucking mention, let me think of it. You mentioned Love and Rockets. They probably don't even know what the fuck that is. It's been around since 81. You mentioned,
oh my goodness, yes.
If you mention a creator like Adrian Tomine.
Yeah.
And they don't even know who the fuck he is. Or Daniel Klaus. Or Chris Ware. These not mainstream creators, but some like people that do innovative work in the medium. And they don't know. And I'm kind of knocking employees now at that point. But I think that comic book stores should have a diverse sections. They should have diverse employees also that are knowledgeable in all things comics, not just Batman and Superman or Marvel DC.
I'm not going to say which comic shop, but I walked in one day and I was like, hey, I'm looking for stuff by Phil Hester. And literally there's 3 people there. They were like, yeah, what did he work on? What has he done? Like, you don't know?
Christ. Oh, Jesus Christ.
That's what I'm here for.
Hold on a second. Hold on. What area was it so that I can guess the store?
West Los Angeles.
Oh, Golden Apple.
God damn it, Ryan.
I'll say it right here. Fuck Golden Apple, dude. The only reason they have the fucking clout that they do is because of the celebrities that have walked through that store. Go ahead.
Okay, well, when I first, because Golden Apple was my first LCS, but that was when I was living in LA, and they had a much bigger store back when I was going to them, because they've moved like locations like 3 times since I've known, right? And each space has just gotten smaller and smaller and smaller. Even their current place used to be twice the size, but they reduced the size because I guess rent hiked up, so now they're way smaller now. But like at first, Golden Apple was great, and then over the recent years, like especially when I was living in LA, that place just deteriorated. It just became what it is.
It's after the original owner died, but we don't need to. I don't want to be too much of a dick about the shop because
I was one of the droves in the line to get that Todd McFarlane, because how Todd McFarlane did the big freaking Spawn #1 opening at Golden Apple.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was in the droves of people. That line was fucking ridiculous.
Todd? You meant the Todd father?
No.
But yeah, growing readership, huge problem, and I think definitely needs to be addressed I think especially. I think, Marvel and DC have the majority of the share, which is why I always call them out, right? They have the majority of the market. So like they kind of need to set the tone. While indie publishers do it already and they can continue to be progressive, it doesn't, like in the large scheme of things, if we don't see it from Marvel and DC, then we won't see, like, it won't have a more profound effect, I think.
Yeah. I would just like to see more diverse writers. You know what I mean? Okay, like I will go ahead and say this. One of the best Captain America stories that I've read recently was Ta-Nehisi Coates.
Oh, fuck
Black
yeah.
writer. You know what I mean? I'm really enjoying this Mariko Tamaki Wonder Woman right now. Even though it's just 2 issues, I'm thoroughly enjoying it. There's just so much room for so many different perspectives and so many different approaches for some of these already mainstream and mainstay superheroes that, you should give it to someone who will probably have a different, why, the reason why Thor is important to me is definitely going to be different than why it's important to you, Ryan, or why it's important to you, Jen. If we were all writers, in a sense we are, but if we were all to get given the opportunity, we'd all write very different stories, right? And we showcase different reasons why these characters should be important, why these characters are considered heroes. And I don't know, I just feel like they just need to diversify more. I don't know. It's a little trouble. It's a little troubling that the instant one small change happens to these coveted characters, and off top, freaking people are like, "Oh, the left wins again."
But there's a part of me that's like, yeah, we're winning.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
Fuck yourself. Fuck them, dude. I can't stand them. But so before we get out of here, I just wanted to do one quick shout out. Shelley Bond, my favorite editor in comic books, has a Kickstarter right now, Insider Art, which was originally just a digital anthology to help raise money for female and non-binary retailers. It's now on Kickstarter. She has asked me to help. And so it's pretty surreal that I get to work with her, kind of, and she's kind of my boss, which I told her I would have done it for free, but so I just want to
wait. Shelley Bond's writing you checks, bro. That's tight.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's fucking dope.
It's a trip. I still don't know how it happened, but either way,
fucking awesome. That's fun.
So I just want to shout that out to anybody listening. Go hit it up on Kickstarter, Insider Art. It's a very short Kickstarter, so it's got 13 days left. It's all ages, done by 150 women and non-binary creators, full of comics, crafts, and cats. That's how it's.
Did you say cats?
Cats, yes.
I'm in, bro.
Okay, so please, it's only got 13 days left. I'd really love to see this book be printed because I want a print copy, and I try to get it printed myself, and it's fucking expensive. So it's only $20. It's got a bunch of great tiers. There's loot bags and stuff. So get out there and support it, please.
I just backed it for the $30 tier because you get a combo. Because one of the tiers is the $20 book, and then I think the other tier is a $20 loot bag. But for $30 you can get both. So I went ahead and backed. So please, once again, I want this. And I backed the initial digital only version, but I'm like, I have to have this print version. Yes. It's beautiful. It's stunning. It's stunning.
It's amazing. Shelley Bond, like I said, she's my favorite editor in comics. Probably, I think, I'll go so far as to say she's my favorite person in comics. I admire the shit out of her. I love everything that she's been a part of. And the fact that she has included me in some small way, it means the world to me. It really does. And I want this thing to become a reality because I kind of want to go kick it with her and help package up these books. So
that's tight.
Let's fucking get this shit. Let's get this shit done. But that's all. That's the only plug I wanted to throw out real quick.
All right, guys, that's been another episode of the Comic Lounge Podcast. I want to just sit here and personally thank our guest, Jennifer, for hopping on with us and just rambling with us. We would love to have you back as soon as possible.
Oh, yes, I'm here. I'm waiting. Right after this, let's do another.
No, my wife would kill me. It's her birthday today, so I can't.
Aw.
Anyway, for anybody who's listening, just give us a follow on the following platforms: YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, whatever you guys listen to your podcast through, Podbean, and give us a follow. Hit the subscribe button to get notifications of when we post new stuff. We have new stuff constantly. Ryan is a freaking madman and just puts up an insane amount of product out. He's like a drug dealer, but for freaking comic books.
Yeah,
and
don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at The Comic Lounge. Throw your comments, suggestions either down below this or email us, thecomicloungepod@gmail.com. And like my boy Dill said, don't forget to hit that subscribe button on every single platform that you listen to us on so that you are notified every time we drop a new one of these. Podcasts go up every Tuesday. And like he said, I'll be dealing out the content constantly on YouTube as well. You can see stuff on the site at thecomiclounge.com. And again, Jennifer, a.k.a. at Comic Books Will Break Your Heart on Instagram. You can follow her there. I will throw all of these links down below. Thank you again, Jennifer, for coming on. And yes, we definitely want you back soon.
Also, check out Jennifer's what do you call it? Jennifer's YouTube as well.
Oh yes, yes.
Her and Dan does the damn thing. I watch them weekly, so it's awesome.
Hell yeah. So that's actually something that I'm doing later today, but in a couple hours. But yeah, that's Comic Chop News on YouTube, where I do the weekly live stream. I have a personal YouTube that's Comics Will Break Your Heart, but my Instagram is Comic Books Will Break Your Heart. So
okay. Yeah, and I'll throw those links down below so people can follow you there.
Yeah. Wonderful. Thank you guys so much for having me on.
Yeah, dude, thank you. Yeah, dude, it was awesome. I like this one. This is a good one. So on that note, we're out.
Later, buds.
Bye.